Hello, my name is Carl Snyder, and this video is being shot in a campground with the Mississippi River in the background in Minnesota. This is FDH and Faith, and FDH stands for Freelance Duck Hunting. I encourage you to go and watch our introductory video, which will explain why we're doing this. It's basically reasons to believe. What reasons do I have to believe? Faith is not just, well, I hope that's true. No, faith in the Bible and in God is something that we have because we have good reasons. And the question for this video is, does the Bible text that we have, does that encourage us to believe? Is that well established? And my answer to that question is yes, it is. The Bible has been studied over and written over thousands of years, and so at this point in time we have a very, very reliable text. And so let me just back up a little bit and talk to you about some of these reasons. Decades ago there was a movement which insisted that the New Testament was written in the 2nd century, long after the disciples were all dead, and they just pretty much wrote whatever they wanted to write. But as the years have gone by, most scholars, be they Christians or not, are coming to agree that the New Testament was written in the 1st century, and it was written by people who had eyewitness contact, and that a lot of the stories that were turned into the New Testament were the teachings that were being taught by the eyewitness apostles at the just after the resurrection. So the text of the New Testament has its roots clear back to very early in the after Jesus' death and resurrection. Some of the other videos that I have shot on various other subjects deal with some of these facts and some of these studies that have been done. So the current Bible text is based upon thousands of ancient manuscripts that were written back within a few decades or 100 years or so of the actual events. We find that other ancient manuscripts are not nearly as robust. For instance, the Iliad and a lot of those ancient writings that we have no doubt of their text or meaning or anything today are less reliable because they have so fewer manuscripts, and their manuscripts don't go as far back in history as the New Testament. So if some of you that are viewing these may not really know much about the Bible and what is in the Bible, so let me just give you a little bit of introduction to the Old and New Testament. First of all, the Old Testament was written to the ancient Jewish nation of Israel, and it described the events that God used to work with them and to give them laws and to give them commandments and to tell them what they should do and what their feasts should be, and to look forward to their coming Messiah. The Old Testament was written over a period of about 500 years, and there were 39 books and about 30 authors. And one of the really amazing things about the Old Testament is that even though it was written over so much time and by so many different authors, it nevertheless really hung together. It all made sense. It all fit together as if there was one author. Some of the types of writings that are in the Old Testament include history, poetry, prophecy, which is foretelling future events, the judgment of Israel, the coming of the Messiah, advice and law, and so there's different genre of writings in the Old Testament. And each type of genre has to be approached from the standpoint of that type of genre. The Old Testament was written in the ancient language of Hebrew. Going to the New Testament, there are 29 books in the New Testament, 9 to 10 authors. Most of these authors were either eyewitnesses of Jesus or were close associates with the eyewitnesses of Jesus. There's only one book in the New Testament that we just don't know who wrote it, but it does seem to fit in with the other books and does not contradict. And that's the book of Hebrews. The first 4 books of the Bible of the New Testament are the history of Jesus' life. Then there's the history of the early church, which is called the Acts of the Apostles. And the rest of the books in the New Testament are letters written by various leaders in the church and apostles to churches that they have founded, giving them advice and helping them along the way in terms of how they lived their Christian life and encouraging them despite the persecution that they endured. Also, another genre in the New Testament is the book of Revelation, which is very complex prophecy of the second coming of Jesus Christ. I go to the bookstore and I buy a Bible in English. Can I be confident that when I read it, I'm reading the teachings of Jesus and the teachings of the apostles? Or has this all been changed over the years? Well, first of all, the more ancient manuscripts we have of a particular book, the more reliable the text is that we are able to come up with. And over the years, there's been a science developed in studying ancient manuscripts and coming up with the original meanings and the original words of the manuscript. Now, the New Testament was written in Greek, and perhaps one book might have been written in Aramaic. And so the first thing is, do we understand these ancient languages? And the answer to that question is yes. There have been many scholars, because of the importance of the Bible, they have studied these ancient languages so that there's a really good understanding of these ancient languages. Secondly, there are thousands of ancient manuscripts. And that just, the more manuscripts there are, the more that enables us to determine what the original text read. And so we do have a really good copy. Our Greek New Testament is really, we're very confident that it does not vary from the original authorship in terms of important doctrines. There may be ands or these or cross T's or misspelled words or stuff like that, but none of these variant readings have anything to do with major Christian doctrine. And so over the years, there have been establishing the original Greek text. There have been committees of Greek scholars that have translated the New Testament original text into current languages, have New Testament Bibles written in their language, although there are some that don't yet, but a lot of these are being worked on still. And I would just challenge you to go buy an English translation, buy 2 or 3 of them, or you can go on the internet at BibleGateway.com and you can pull up the different current English translations of the New Testament and read a paragraph in one translation and then read it in another and ask yourself, does this change any important doctrine? And the answer to that is no, it really doesn't. There are many, many good texts that communicate the meaning of the original Greek text. And so, and not only are these English translations good, but there have been many, many Bible scholars that have written commentaries explaining the meaning of various texts, and also there are even Greek dictionaries available for a non-trained person that can go and literally compare the Greek text with the English translation. And so today we just have tremendous tools available to us. No matter what small differences there are in various texts, we still can be confident that we understand the meaning of the major Christian doctrines and what God is saying to us and about us. So without getting into the large number of details, I've just given you a brief summary of the reason why why I'm confident the Bible is correct in terms of saying what it was originally meant to say. Did the message that was given to the writers from God, did that get communicated to us today? And I have very strong confidence that it did. And so what I've done below is I've listed several YouTube links to various speakers on this subject, and I suggest, if this is an issue that you're not so sure about, I would really suggest that you view these YouTube videos, which are made by various expert scholars in the field of Bible text. So thank you for joining me. I hope that you will communicate with us and we can discuss these issues. So thank you very much.